Hello, you're very welcome to this first in a 6-part series of live events, which is about supporting tourism SMEs in getting digital. And the series is called Managing Your Tourism Business Online. We're going to focus on practice, innovation, and excellence. My name is Nick Hall, and I'm from the Digital Tourism Think Tank, and we're producing this series in partnership with the European Commission. Today's program is about your business and today's visitor, and we're going to take a holistic look at the digital landscape and the key things that you need to be thinking about as a small and medium-sized enterprise in 2015. So, kicking straight off, our aim today and through this series is to help tourism, small and medium-sized businesses to succeed online. We're going to be covering a range of different things in this series, which includes business mentoring, digital development, real-world case studies, industry innovation, and also giving you some really rich market insights. You can also tweet along. We have a hashtag that we're using called MyTourismBiz, and we encourage all of you to tweet your questions, both to us and also to our experts who will be joining us through this series. And they will certainly try to do their best to get back to you and give you some expert advice and opinions. Do share your stories, your thoughts and your opinions, and we will be looking at those later in today's program and giving a quick summary on the feedback that we've received. So, introducing today's live event, what are you going to get out of watching this series? Well, first of all, we've given you a complete insight into what it means to be a small business in today's world, in 2015, welcoming visitors. We're going to help you to understand the changes that are taking place today in the tourism industry, and in particular in the last 2 or 3 years, with new disruptive components coming on the scene. And we're also going to be looking at what's driving this change and how you as a business can embrace it. I'm very excited because we're also going to be mentoring and following the development through this series of 6 different programs. A very lovely young lady who started her own small business only recently. Her name is Laura Bujalance, and she's the founder of Surya Retreats. So, Laura, it's a really great pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We invited you to be part of this series because we, first of all, were really inspired by the business that you're starting up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this business?
Well, thank you. Well, I've decided to start with Surya Retreats because I've been for several years in the tourism industry, in the marketing tourism industry, and I also recently started practicing yoga, and I noticed there's a big market in the yoga business. And, you know, being from Spain and having been selling Spain for a number of years, I know we have the best environment, the best landscape, the best weather, of course. And also we have amazing accommodation that can host yoga retreats. So I found a very good combination of both worlds.
So why yoga? What is it that makes you so passionate about this as a subject?
Well, I started practicing it a few years ago, and it actually helped me a lot, getting fit, and also, you know, getting a better sense of myself and getting grounded and stuff. And I thought that's a very good way to help people as well.
So tell us a bit about the product, what you're actually offering. What do people get when they go on a yoga retreat?
Well, first of all, I want to target my business to yoga teachers who don't know how to organize their yoga retreats. So I would help them plan their whole product, so the accommodation, the transfers, the activities, etc. And that's what the yogis would get when they would come on a yoga retreat.
Okay, that's what we call a yoga fan, yogi. Okay, yogi. Great. So in this series, we're going to introduce you to lots of different experts, and we have one of those experts here with us today. Tell me, what are you hoping? What would you like to know in order to help you get on the right track with your business? Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I kind of jump-started into like organizing this retreat, so it would be helpful for me to start with a business plan, which I don't have yet. It would probably be helpful for me to learn how to reach my ideal clients, and also probably narrow down my business model. in general.
So really building that foundation in your business
Yes.
so that you've got a viable product, so that you your customers are, who your market is,
Exactly.
and you structure your business in the right way.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're going to be able to help you through this series, and we're also asking some of our different experts to give you some mentoring themselves.
Okay.
So we'll look forward to hearing your thoughts on what you see later in today's program, and also hearing how you get along with your business.
Good,
so we'll be
thanks.
hearing more from you later on today's webinar. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
So now I'm going to Okay, so now I'm going to get into the internet basics, and we're not going to go too much into detail, but we're just going to look at the key things that you need to think about in terms of the changes that are happening on the web today. So first of all, we're going to look at from offline to digital. What do we mean by change? What's the current state of digital? What SMEs need to think about? And also we're going to look at the overall landscape, start advertising your own activities as a business. So first of all, looking at the internet basics. The internet is composed of many different what we would call territories, and these are things that you already know. Things like blogs, social networks, maps, websites, video streaming, e-commerce, mobile commerce, search engines, web portals, you name it. There's a plethora of different channels which you could be present and visible. Internet users are navigating across these different territories and channels at a very sophisticated level for those that they're very comfortable with. And there really is no barrier anymore between online and offline, and it's really important that you understand the needs of your visitors and the channels and opportunities that you have to reach your visitors and how they feed into your own online strategy. This is a diagram by Brian Solis, which is very well known and actually gives you a complete universe of different channels which you can tap into. And for many businesses who are familiar with seeing this kind of diagram, it can actually seem very overwhelming, because actually what it tells you, what it shows you, is that you have hundreds and hundreds of different channels. So a lot of opportunities, a lot of different places where your customers are, also a lot of different tools which will help you run and market your business better, from project management tools right through to newsletter marketing and things like that, as well as all of the consumer platforms that we're very familiar with. So what we're going to do through this series is try and demystify that landscape and look at just a number of those to help you get a better understanding as a business of where you might want to be focusing. Of course, the key pillars of this are listening, learning, and adapting, and actually understanding where you need to focus in your business, and it will very much depend on what you do as a business. So we're going to start by looking at some statistics and just looking at internet penetration across the world. For me, these statistics always seem very surprising because they're surprisingly low. But actually, when we look at these statistics later on, you will see that there is a reason for this. So in North America, the Northern Hemisphere in general, we see that internet penetration rates are actually quite high, towards 100%. And this is really impressive. When it comes to social media networks, we see similarly that networks have been very successful in reaching large numbers of people across the world, with a few exceptions. And certain places like Brazil are really driving a very fast pace of change, and actually the social online networks are very much where all the activity takes place online. But what's really interesting here is when we look at mobile penetration, because we see on this graph that all of these statistics, which were quite internet penetration, are actually well above 100%. So that means that in Western Europe, for example, 129% of mobile penetration actually suggests that that there's 1.3 phones per consumer. So that's a really interesting number. Actually, what this tells us is that in many markets, including developed markets, mobile is leapfrogging fixed infrastructure. What this means for you as a tourism business is that you really need to understand the importance of mobile and the role that mobile has in the visitor journey. And we're going to look at that later on. But before doing that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, our programs director, Ramona Wagner, who's going to help go into some of that in a little bit more detail before we go over to our guests who we have with us later on.
So a couple of things tell. We would like to look at the changing consumer behavior and also how different SMEs actually need to adapt to change. We'll also be looking at implications for SMEs in tourism and the consumer behavior, some trends, and of course a focus on digital tourism and what you should really take away today from this live event. So from offline to digital, when we look at how different travelers are using the mobile web, we can really see that there is a vast increase in terms of them using their mobile devices. Here we can see that 75% of travelers in France and the UK accessed the web online through their phones, and that was in 2014. We can also see that the travel products that are purchased through a mobile device are just increasing. We've seen a vast increase in 2014, and we'll see growth in 2015. Definitely expect different travelers to come to your website and to come to your offerings through a mobile device. That means it needs to be adapted to that, and it needs to accommodate that as well. In the last year, we've also seen that the European Commission has done some reports and also wanted to make some decisions that by 2016 roaming charges would just disappear, which of course we're all looking forward to, and hopefully this will again result in a big boost in terms of mobile visitors to your website. But when we look at what else is happening in the travel industry, we can also see that a lot of the peer-to-peer travel companies, such as Airbnb and of course others, they're really growing rapidly. And very soon we're expecting more people staying at the likes of Airbnb than maybe hotels, and that's really a big change towards sort of the last couple of years. Another big point to consider is also that meta search is really disrupting from and travelers are really preferring to see sort of a wide range of different offerings so they can compare it, because they're actually losing trust to brand websites and preferring sites where different searches are compared and they can make a decision based on that. Also, when you're looking at sort of the journey all the way from inspiration to awareness and then booking, there's also a lot of changes there in terms of consumers really trusting other family members' recommendations on review sites a lot more than what a brand communicates to consumers accessing their websites. And that has really been a change. This is actually an extract from a European Commission report that was published in 2014, and it looks at what are the top planning methods and sources that consumers are using. And we can of course see that the internet is the top one here. When we then look at what consumers are basing their travel decision on, we can clearly see that recommendations of friends, colleagues and relatives are very, very high with 56%. The internet listed second. So it's really, really important that you integrate different reviews into your website, that you communicate the experiences that different people had through your channels, because that's what travelers, that's the type of information that travelers will really want to get. And if you want to access the report, we have included the link here, and we will share the link through some tweets and after this. Now I'm very pleased to be introducing our second live guest, Paul Stephen, who's actually from a UK-based company, Sagittarius Marketing, and he has over 20 years of experience, so really a wealth of experience, and he will be sharing some insights and recommendations. So now we'll hear from Paul Stephen and Nick.
So, Paul, it's a great pleasure to have you with us. I'm deeply interested about what Sagittarius is doing, because I know that you're an online business, you're a digital marketing agency, but you work a lot in the tourism sphere. So tell us a little bit about your business and what you do, first of all.
Sure, thank you for having me. Yeah, so Sagittarius is an agency that's been around for a long time, and I've been in the tourism industry one way or another well, scarily over 20 years, working from everything from attractions to tourism departments, tour operators, travel agents. So a real mixed sphere, really. And obviously, being in it that long, I've gone from an offline world, a very digital space that we are now.
So you must have seen a change in 20 years. I mean, for even the web.
Yes. Well, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
So congratulations for having bridged the gap and taken that offline to online jump, which we were talking about there. So today, I mean, even when we look at online, we've seen such vast and rapid changes in the last 2 years.
I think the first point out to everybody is actually it is somewhat overwhelming. Actually, I think even somebody who's an experienced digital marketer like myself, it takes a lot of effort to stay up to date. So as much as there are challenges, I talk to people a lot, and they're kind of like, we actually don't know what we should be doing. Should we do more of this, more less of that? Well, that isn't a simple answer. So that's the first thing I will say. And it's very easy, I think, for a company to get very distracted by all the different channels. So there's, every week, month, or whatever, you'll get another email that says you should be doing this or you should be doing that. When ultimately all of it still boils back to having a good product, understanding your customer, having a good story to tell, etc.
I'm glad to hear that, because I think there's often a risk that we get carried away, even with programs like this, where we talk a lot about all the channels. But if you don't have the product in the first place, you're stuck, really, because you need something that's really good to sell. So when you have a good product, how can a business go about choosing the right channels to be present on?
Well, firstly, there's not one size fits all. It comes back to very much understanding who your customers are, their demographic, their age, their where they are in the world. You get very different internet usage in different parts of the world, let alone the amount they use it, but also, as we was just discussing there, the devices they be using. You have to really look at what your audience is doing. I mean, so you might have an audience that traditionally is quite an older audience, but then when you're selling that same product online, there actually becomes a younger sector than it traditionally might have been. So what we do work with some brands where their audience, it wasn't necessarily perceived as a digital audience, but now they're finding a whole new audience.
And how can businesses manage the resource element of that? Because with so many channels and a lot of opportunities, just planning that is already quite resource intensive. So how can you make the right time investment into planning what you do, and also make the right judgment in terms of how much time you should spend on these different activities?
I mean, obviously we work with brands and we want to make sure that whatever they spend their time, money or otherwise on, that the return on investment is ultimately there. But when you're sort of starting that process, you're going a step at a time to make sure you're not wasting your time and energy. Sorry, you're going to have to repeat the question because I lost my thread there. Sorry.
In essence, I think what we're trying to understand is, with limited resources, how do you really make the right decisions? How do you ensure you don't waste your resources? Because it's incredibly precious if you're sort of 4 or 5 people. How do you really make sure that you're focused?
Well, I mean, you have to bear in mind that whatever you do is positive. Well, in theory, it's positive. It's only augmenting what you're possibly already doing. You have to take on board that even if you don't want to spend time investing in social or whatever it might be, the customer's expectation is that you are there. This is one of the things that drives what you have to do rather than what you maybe want to do at the moment, is the customer expectation.
And you should be very much customer driven in terms of your overall business approach, but also your marketing approach as well.
Absolutely.
And tell me about the analytics tools. So starting to get a better understanding of who your customers are. In the case of Laura, she's had a number of customers already, and it's already a customer base to start to look at the behavior online. Where would you suggest businesses start? Well,
I mean, a lot of brands we work with use the free stuff. There's what you can learn through Google Analytics is amazing. Like building on Sitecore, using Google Alerts and Google Trends, everything everything that you can learn there.
So there's no need to get worried about, making a huge investment when you're small.
No, and increasingly now, actually, the social channels are offering all sorts of data as well, so you can learn a lot more about your clients through your Facebook fans and your YouTube users, etc.
So actually, if you're active on Facebook or active on Twitter, just using the analytics there is a good place to start.
Well, they're a great place to start. I mean, Facebook has been able to tell you more personal information than the others for a while. Actually, Google are sort of making steps to try and catch up and give you that sort of analytics. But I mean, they're all combined, really. I mean, the tools that you can buy into allow you to perhaps see those, but essentially the data is kind of there and freely available.
How regularly should businesses be looking at the performance of what they do?
I have to be careful with this because obviously, depending on the size of the team, just looking at data and analytics can be overwhelming, and you can spend a lot of time doing it. And also, I'm wary of people who will spend a lot of time looking at all the detail, looking at all their keywords, etc. When actually, if they spend their time on the key stuff, the sort of classic Plato's rule of the key phrases that are really important to you, and things like Google and that have the ability to create very easy custom reports or dashboards, so that very quickly on a weekly basis or however you want, you can see just the sort of top line stuff that you need, be it weekly, monthly, even daily as a report sent to you via email.
So would your advice be for businesses getting started with digital to use the free tools that are available of them? Don't actually perhaps invest.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily something for startups. I mean, there's a lot of big companies who just use the Google Analytics for their data as well. It might be augmented with other additional data, but it's one of those things, because it's for free, people devalue it. But in fact, it's actually a very powerful set of tools.
Now, a key thing is differentiating yourself online. The huge number of channels, as well as the huge number of users, makes it a big opportunity, but also hard to stand out. So what would your advice be there?
Yeah, I think that's a key point, certainly in travel and tourism, and particularly when you're a hotel or an attraction, for example. The internet creates a massive challenge in terms of how do you get the cut through, but also it gives you the massive opportunity to compete against anybody on a level playing field. So I think that's the first thing to say. I mean, how do you cut through? Again, I sort of go back to being about your brand having a good product to sell and being transparent with that. You need to be consistent with your brand. These are all sort of more traditional marketing techniques, really, rather than something you might associate with digital marketing. Though.
So ironically, we talk a lot about all the web, but actually the key thing is to get the basics right, get the business well structured, make sure the product is really strong, make sure that your investment in the business is quite genuine in terms of the authenticity.
I think you need to be authentic, but also the internet gives you the ability to be disruptive. So you need to be consistent with the way you do things. You need to have a brand that people can buy into, but then you can do things that surprise people and get that sort of cut through, I suppose.
So I guess that's the innovation that we're talking about more and more. Do you think it's important for businesses to innovate, even a small business perhaps isn't focused on innovation itself?
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those things in marketing generally. I would urge people not to just follow the leader, really, and do just because somebody else is doing it, do it yourself to try and sort of bring yourself up to their level. It's better to be a challenger and try and think, well, if they're going to do that approach, I'll take a different approach.
That's good advice. Well, thank you very much, Paul. We're going to be hearing more about your thoughts on Laura's business later on. But now we're going to go to Luis Costa, who is a tourism expert, and he has been working in the tourism field for more than 10 years. And we had a chat with him to see how he's working with small businesses and what he has to say. So I think you have a great insight that you can share with the tourism businesses who will be watching this. Introducing yourself and telling us a bit more about your background.
Yes, of course. Hi, Nick. I'm very pleased to be here talking about this subject. I started in the tourism in 1992 in the National Tourist Board, basically taking care of information. And at the moment, information was basically content, what we now call content. And this was my first contact with information and communication technologies. And since then, I've been working in this field. How can we improve our efficiency in communication with the customer using technology. So this was basically my work for the last 20 years. I've been working in the promotion department and later on the strategic planning. So taking in consideration the trends and defining strategies for the next sport.
Great. Okay, thanks a lot. So today's program is about your business and today's visitors. So it's really aimed at helping small and medium-sized enterprises understand what's happening in the world today, how they need to react to the changes that are taking place. I guess at this point, what would your advice to SMEs be in terms of the best place to make the first steps towards creating a strong online presence for a tourism business?
I think that the starting point is to meet their customers. So as we heard from the Clue Train manifesto, in nowadays market is a conversation. So they need to engage with their customers in first place. The market is not easy for small and medium enterprises because it's strongly mediated by the big players in the industry. Investment of the big online players, so it's difficult for them. The first thing is to understand who are their customers and to start this dialogue, to start this conversation. So this will spread over a lot of channels. This dialogue initially works their own website. Essential moments of contact.
So essentially you see the web and the changes that have happened in the web as actually an opportunity to build closer relationships with customers.
Yes, it's an opportunity, but is also a threat in some way, okay? Because digital channels even are the essential, the key channels to contact the customers. And since they are strongly mediated, it's very difficult for small and medium enterprises now to reach their customers directly and to understand them. So the first step is understand who are your customers and where are they. And we cannot use the traditional methods of segmentation of the market. We have to have a new approach. And in order to start this dialogue, you need, in first place, to listen to the customer. This is an essential key. Who are they? What are they saying about you? What are they saying about their travel experience? And try to engage them in this conversation. So you need, if you want to play in the online market now, especially with your direct channels, that is the most profitable for small and medium enterprises, you have to reach your customer where they are talking about what is important for them.
So your message for SMEs is really that it's a hugely competitive space. There's a lot of opportunity out there, but there's also a lot of challenges and competition. Yes. So you need to understand where they are and target them. What do you think are the biggest impacts that digital has had on SMEs? And how does that result in the challenges that they face today in terms of both running a business, but also marketing their business?
One of the first impacts of technology is this possibility to reach the customer, but it's somehow, let's say, a virtual opportunity because you need skills to take advantage of the online channels. I think that technology has become more and more complex of these new. You need skills that usually you don't have inside a small and medium enterprise. On the other side, the technology itself is providing new opportunities, like cloud computing and things like that, and software as a service or platform as a services that are some way a way to take the technology out of the company and put it in the hand of professionals, allowing the company, the small and medium companies in the travel sector, to focus not in managing service, managing technology, but in managing their business. So the landscape is changing now, and there are a lot of opportunities in the market for small and medium enterprises to deal with the marketing issues using technology without this complexity of the technology paraphernalia that usually was one of the major problems for small and medium enterprises.
So really, technology has been a big challenge. But what you're saying is that in recent years, it's really been simplified and made accessible because I guess because a lot of the range of products and services that we're seeing, which allow online and use the different tools in a way that works for their business.
Yes, because most of the complexity now can be outsourced with a reasonable price. And then you can concentrate on what is critical for you, that is the marketing. Tell your story, engage in conversation with customers, look for what customers really need, and concentrate in something that is really very, very important, that is the user experience journey, and to improve your contact with the customer in all the phases of this journey.
Okay, and tell me, in terms of giving advice to SMEs that are thinking about either starting a business or actually thinking about trying to get more closer to technology, get to grips with digital, what kind of tools would you recommend are really good for any business to really understand how to use properly?
So the key tools for a small and medium enterprise in the travel sector basically are, on one side, the website. It remains the most important tool probably, and on the other side, the tools that allow the company to become online, real-time, and always available. I'm talking about, for instance, for the hotels, the booking engine, the channel manager. These are tools that we cannot avoid nowadays in order to play a role in the market. Okay, so on one side we have the communication tool, that is the website, and then on the other side we have the business tools, that is the tools that allow the companies to manage their assets, their property, and to affect to the different possibilities, meaning the different channels of according with their course. But somehow the software tools now are simplifying all these. And like social networks.
Great. I think you've touched on some really interesting points there, because we often focus on websites and we often focus on social media, and we know that's very important. And it's good to hear that whilst we talk about the importance of social media and the huge influence that it has on the customer journey, the website still has a really key kind of pivotal role in that decision-making process. What you also mentioned was the other tools which actually help them to sell the products. Any business needs to be able to commercialize and to sell their range of products and services. And your advice to businesses is to get your website in order, but also think about the sort of second level tools which will help you deliver and provide your products and services to your customers. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. That's very important, because all these other tools, you are referring to the business tools, the booking engine, the channel manager, are your connection with the market. If you are talking with of the accommodation business, for instance, they are critical, they are essential. It's the way for the business to take control of their inventory. And this is a critical step for the companies in order to maximize their profits. If you are talking about the other tools, the social networks, the content distribution and sharing, this provides the company the context for this dialogue with the customer. You need to create this environment that stimulates the participation of the customer, the contribution of the customer. So we now look at the customer not only as the other side of the market, but as part of the overall process. And when I'm talking about content, I'm talking about contextual content that allows this conversation, that can be produced by the company, that can be produced by third parties, that can be produced by the customer itself. So this possibility of creating content that will give you an idea of what can be the specific experience that this service can provide to the customer.
Very good advice.
And to develop around that.
Very good advice there. What would you say are the advantages of being a small business in this new digital world?
Okay, the major advantages is flexibility. So you can easily change your strategy. Strategy it's a long-term view of the business in one way, but in nowadays you must look constantly to this strategy and keep changing keep adapting, keep learning with the customer and adapting your business to the customer needs. So it's much more easy for a small and medium company to adapt, to transform. On the other side, it's more complex in some ways to manage all the tools necessary to extract information from the customer and to adapt the business. Let's say that as what happened with technology in the last few years, that somehow companies were externalizing the complexity of technology, the same can start to happen with a small business. You cannot do your marketing all alone. You will have to start define partnerships. Okay. What does this mean? It means that if you are a very small company, you don't have enough resources to go everywhere. So you need to connect with similar companies. You need to connect with destinations. This is a critical step because they own content that you can reuse and share with your customers, because they have platforms that can give you visibility. So for all the business, not only for accommodation, it's essential to think about the platforms where they want to be. And this is a critical part of the business.
And for small businesses to take that one step forward, where would you advise them to start looking to develop this knowledge, but also to find out which are the right tools and which are the right partners to build a network and build up their own wealth of knowledge to go forwards with?
It depends from place to place, but for instance, destinations are a critical support level for small and medium enterprises.
By destinations, you mean tourist boards?
Tourist boards, yeah. Destinations, tourist boards, tourism organizations. They can provide platform for visibility, and they also can provide tools. It's not easy for small and medium companies to choose in the market the different available of what to be able to connect your business to all these platforms. There are a lot of tools in the market now, especially platforms that allow you to access all these tools. It's not easy to choose, but let's say that the most, from my point of view, the most important tools are the ones that are providing you a service and not commissioning yourselves.
Okay.
I don't know.
Great advice. Yeah. So I think really the message for any tourism business is to take the time to plan out how their business will be present on the web, and also how they will distribute their products and services, through which channels, through which partners, how they will get the message out, and to take the time to make sure that those decisions are really carefully considered, because, as you said, there's a lot of choice there. Which is actually very good for the customers, which in this case is the small and medium-sized enterprises.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Luis, for sharing those insights with us. We look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
For the meanwhile, thanks for joining us on this program.
Thank you.
Cheers. Great. So I'm very pleased to have with us Luis Costa.
So that was really interesting. I hope you found their insights really helpful for you. We're going to look at just sort of 10 key points that we put together, which we think helps you to understand where you should focus with your business. So first of all, knowing your strength. It's a really important thing. It sounds very simple, but knowing what your strengths are as a business is really something that you need to understand before you start investing in all sorts of marketing activities. Secondly, communicate your tourism offering online. Make sure you're very clear about what your products are, and make sure that it's communicated appropriately, the right channels, the right messaging, the right rhetoric, the right relationships that you develop. This is a really key point here. 3 is to determine what your objectives are. So if you're putting in even €300 into a marketing campaign, you need to be clear about what kind of results you want to see from that, because you don't want to waste money, and certainly not as a small business. 4th is to be conscious of the resources that you have. And as a small business, I guess your resources, Laura, are more or less nil, right? So you have to be really conscious of what you have in terms of human resources, and that might be you, it might be 3 partners that have started a business together, and also be conscious, even as a bigger company. It's to make choices. So when we look ecosystem of different channels, to not go for every single channel, but go for the 3 or the 4 or even the 1 where you know your customers are. It's also important to determine your target audience. Make sure you're clear about who your target audience is. And also to make sure you understand their behavior. So what kind of conversations do they have? What kind of things are they looking for? How do you actually get to know your market better? How do you build those relationships with them? Making sure you're findable to those target audiences would be our 8th point. 9th is taking advantage of the free tools. So Paul, really good advice just to start with what exists already. And I think you're right, taking 10 minutes out of your day to see what your Facebook trends are. If your last email campaign drove a peak to your web traffic, it's a good place to start. And you can start to understand a little bit better what you do that works and what doesn't work, and then really focus on developing the things that works. And the last thing really, which you've already said, is about differentiating yourself. So our 10th point would be, how do you differentiate yourself as a business? So those are our 10 points. Laura, tell me, what do you think about what Lewis had to say and the kind of advice and opinions of his experience in working with businesses?
Well, I think as well as what you said, being an SME means having very limited resources, and I think that what's more important is taking advantage of this free resources, audience, your clients through this social networks and other. I think that's a good starting point, and a very important one.
Great, okay. Paul, what's your advice for luxury of jumping offline to online and having developed a very successful business over the last 20 years? Looking back to when you started, what's your advice to her?
Well, for a start, I don't think it matters if you're a startup or a large PLC, actually. Everyone's always looking to get bang for their buck out of their marketing. With every type of travel product, it's difficult to be all things to all people, so you have to be clear about what it is that you're selling and then be clear about who you're trying to sell it to. As a way of something that the kids do, or something that they've just been
activities.
Very much on that. That we exhibition, right?
Your company and also the concept of serving water will tell you how
without brand views. So instead we are
Cruiser Treasure. Could you explain and give an overview of your business and also some of the background for your company?
Okay, yes. Our company is focusing on industry and a new concept of beverage. We have created an underwater cellar. This underwater cellar is working as an artificial reef. We put inside of the reef and we put inside of the cellar our beverage and our barrels. And after 1 year on the deep, with the lack of gravity, with the movement of the tides and the currents and the deep and no visibility, and with a very constant temperature, we get a unique product. Our product, as you can see here, maybe give us not only a very nice bottle, with sea life living together with the wine, we get a very unique flavor on the wine. It's very soft in mouth and very aromatic. This is not only a feeling of the consumer, no? It's not only a sensation of the taste. It's a chemical component change. So this has been demonstrated from different laboratories here in Spain. We are very proud because this was our main business, and after that business began to come different journalists worldwide, many of them from the European Union. And after this, finally, in different months, we decided to create a new business line with tourists that came to visit our cellar and come to Plencia. It's a nice small village in the Basque Country with a very big green areas, very nice coast. We go by boat to the cellar and we can see with underwater cameras how is working the cellar, the reef, the sea life. With all of that, we recover the bottles, we recover the barrels, and we taste the wine with them. So we can arrange different experience, very unique worldwide, and with a very good result and very good feeling from our visitors that you can check on TripAdvisor as well. So we are very happy and very proud and very with a very big emotion with that project.
So how do you actually then promote your business online? And also getting back to some of the channels you've already mentioned, what other channels are you using to promote your business and also the unique experience?
Yes, with me, Sana Riera is our communication manager. And normally, at the beginning, we only focus in create new products. For us, it was very difficult to get the different authorizations and the different evolution of the wine. After that, we began to receive a lot of demands of information from journalists from different magazines worldwide. So we began to be in touch with different magazines and journalists, and we began to learn how we have to manage these contacts. So with that, we create a database, and this database has been increasing over the years with different contacts, and with all of this, we get in touch every month, and we are using Twitter and Facebook. Not very much, but we are improving our knowledge on that. And with that, we are working in different exhibitions worldwide. And with that is more or less that we are doing. We know that we have to improve, but we don't have enough time and we don't have enough expertise. But our goal for this year is to improve this channel because we know that this is very important. We are doing new developments with an American company to improve this area.
And how many people are then actually in your team, and how many people are taking care of sort of marketing the business and also the overall experience online?
So now in our company we are working over 10 persons. Some of them are only on the sea area, they are working every day with the boat or with the tourists. And in the other side, we are at the office. And in the office, Anna normally is managing sea by herself the communication politically, and with another guy sometimes that help.
So what would you say are the main challenges that you are facing as an SME in tourism?
I think that we are in a very nice industry, that is the wine industry now. And now it's very well known, the enotourism. So this is growing very much every year. And we have a new concept. For a lot of tourists, it's very interesting to know what happened here. So we need to focus our efforts to communicate really very well that this is not a joke, that this is a real company, that we have sanitary register, that we have a lot of people working on that, and we have a very good critics with our product. And it's a real story very, very nice to her, very nice to understand. But behind it, we have our real knowledge and a lot of years of studies.
Yeah, I think especially when looking on your website, there's a lot of sort of video content, the overall experience and also the story behind your company, and also the concept of sort of storing and maturing wine underwater is really told in a very unique way. Could you maybe tell me or tell the audience a little bit more about how you're actually doing that on the website and sort of what success you have seen with that?
Yeah, I think that maybe Anna can tell me if you want to do that. Okay? But at this moment, this website is old. We know that internet is going very fast. So this design was at the beginning of the project because we thought that our company needs a brand view and very near of all content like treasure, pirates, wrecks, something like that. But step by step, we understand that we are very modern because we have technology, we are very innovative, so we have a very new concept, and we have to work in that message. So because of that, we create the brand, as you know, is a T that represents the treasure concept, the sea skin, the deep of the sea because of the T, and the surface of the sea. So with that, we are moving from a content that is maybe very old, to a new content. So this year we are going to move to a very easy navigation website in order to facilitate the access for mobile phones or iPads or something like that.
That's really great. Well, thanks a lot, Borja, for some of the initial insights here. Now moving over to Neil Lapping from Max Adventure. Could you maybe give us an overview over your business, the background, and also what makes your business unique?
Yeah, sure, Ramona. So my business is Max Adventure. We specialize in self-guided walking and cycling and adventure holidays throughout the UK, Europe, as well as a number of worldwide destinations. And to give you a brief overview, we started in 2003, so we're 11 years old. We currently have a team of about 25 people in our office in the UK. We cater for about 10,000 travellers a year from throughout the world. We have quite a big UK base. We have a lot of North American clients, as well as about 15 to 20% from Europe, as well as further afield like Australia or the East. And the core of our business, what a self-guided walking or cycling holiday is that we book the accommodation, the transfers, the route notes, the baggage transfer, so people can travel independently, but still with the support of a tour operator, backing up and taking care of all the logistics. So it's a great business, and we've been growing very strongly. Last year we grew by over 40%, and we've grown by over 30% for the last 5 or 6 years.
That's really great. From what I understand from your initial business concept, early on, when you started the business, you actually changed the direction of Max Adventure, which I think is something quite interesting to hear, that an SME who started off with an idea actually then maybe found that the initial idea did not really work out that well. Could you maybe tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. The first idea, so this was some time ago in 2003, was to operate adventure tours for backpackers. So it's a youth travel market. And the way they were experiencing Scotland was from the back of a bus, stopping every so often and taking a tour of traditional places. So very much like the traditional tourist market, but just with younger people. So we launched this, and at the time, I was very naive and young, and it just didn't work. And, perhaps that is part to do with my experience. But so we very quickly changed into the more mainstream market of looking at walking holidays. And at the time, we offered both guided and self-guided tours. And that was immediately more popular for us, more business. But what we've done is we've continued to innovate throughout the history of our business. So, that was probably the first pivot and iteration. A couple of years later, instead of when we started, we focused purely on Scotland. A couple of years later, we broadened our product range into England. After that, we looked at things like, cycling, European destinations, worldwide destinations. We also looked at things that weren't working. So, for instance, we used to do guided trips, and those weren't as successful as self-guided, so we left those out. And, we continually have to innovate. So, they're probably every year there are new challenges, whether that be new markets, products, routes to market, things like that. So it's never ending. We're continually changing.
And looking at all of the different sort of marketing tools that you're using to promote and get the message out about your business, which tools do you think are the most important ones for your business?
Right. Yeah, we've always been an internet-driven company. So that's been our predominant route to market, and still very much our predominant route to market, because our customers are very, they come from all over the world. And also, as a small upstart, we didn't have the budget to spend a fortune on brochures or invest in distribution partnerships with travel agents. So the internet's always been our primary route to market. So we've always invested heavily in our website. And the key way, the lesson I always tell people who kind of first getting into the tourism industry or digital marketing is people will not just arrive at your website. The investment you make in the building of your website is just a tiny part of what the overall cost of your marketing budget is going to be. So for us, what we use enormously is paid search. So Google AdWords, as well as the other platforms such as Bing. And that's where we still spend about 90% of our marketing budget. And it's incredibly successful for us because we're a niche business. At the moment that people are thinking about, say, for instance, walking the Tour de Mont Blanc, we are appearing in those search results. Once they land on our site, we spend a lot of time in terms of optimizing the user experience to improve conversion. So we look at tracking and Google Analytics very closely. We try and track every type of conversion on the website. So whether that's a brochure download or a phone call or an actual transaction or booking or an inquiry, that's all tracked through. So that's kind of one of our mainstays of our business. One thing I would say, my kind of top tip would be the thing that really transformed our business was having our own reviews on our website. So currently we have about, 3,500 reviews across our different products. And so that means that we control the conversation about our trips and how good they are on our own website. So as soon as the user lands on the page, there are lots of reviews that they can say, as well as the content we're putting on there, there's also a huge amount of user-generated content.
So in terms of recommendations for tourism SMEs, you would definitely recommend them to basically have a very good website that represents them well, that explains sort of the offering of the tourism product and of the different packages, and then also really getting involved in social media and integrating lots of the different reviews and also tools that are available for free. And then also, as you said, working a lot with sort of Google Analytics and making sure that you measure your performance, look at how to improve things.
Yeah, I think content and transparency is absolutely crucial, especially when you're selling a service. So you have to be very, very clear on exactly what the customer is buying from you, and that will help your conversion rate. So we show the hotels they will be staying in, exactly what's included, what's excluded. So that's part of the transparency. We put things in like, who you're going to be dealing with, as well as the second level of transparency is then having those reviews. And there are multiple platforms that have made it very, very easy for, at low cost to put the reviews on your site. Obviously TripAdvisor now has these plugins, which I think for accommodation providers, they can put the TripAdvisor plugin onto their site so that the client can validate it. And I think that's become essential, is to build the trust. Because if your trust is, when we put reviews on our site, it increased our conversion rate by 60%, which means that you can then spend more than your competitors on things like Google AdWords because you're converting your visitors more effectively, so therefore increases profitability of your business.
Well, thanks a lot, Neil. I think those are really very good tips for all of the SMEs tuning in today. I'm sure they were taking lots of notes, and also be sure, I would say, to check out all of the different tools that were mentioned. I think going back to Borja Saracho, what would you say are the top tips, sort of from your perspective, when tourism SMEs are now starting off? What are the most important things to consider?
I think that from our point of view, we are very new in this industry with the tourist business. We think that it's very important that the product is really different, really smart, unique. All of our staff is working really very close to the customer with a very professional treatment. We speak very near but very professional. So we try to give to our visitors a luxury experience, but understanding the luxury like an opportunity to be very near the founder or the staff that has created the product. So in that line, we get a lot of feedbacks from our customers because we are so near that in some case they open the opportunity to speak with them from our business, because a lot of times they are businessmen that are working in different business worldwide. Sorry, and with that we get their feedback. On the other hand, we are working with different tour operators. For us, they are very important. As the company of our college in UK, it's very vital for us that they know us and they come to work with us. With these points, we began to work, and step by step we are earning different awards, and we are meeting different people that is helping us to improve our knowledge and to improve our treatment with the customers and our feeling that how we can improve our expertise.
I think that was a very good summary. I think overall, what some of the things that really stood out from talking to both of you is that sort of creating a unique experience, innovating and at the same time making sure that you can differentiate yourself from other businesses that are in the same industry. Those are sort of the three key areas that you both are focusing on, and I think that's definitely a very good message to take away for all of the different SMEs that are just starting or that have already started their journey digitally. I'm very
Great, so really interesting case studies there from those businesses. Paul, I have to say, thanks very much for joining us today. I think we're going to hear more from you later in the series. So let's go to some of the tweets that we've received. And also, I should say, we have had a couple of technical glitches. So some of our viewers may have seen the stream go offline for a few minutes. But hopefully everybody is back with us now. So first of all, we have a tweet from Ignacy Capella, who just said it's really interesting, everything that he's learned here. He's going to be following My Tourism Biz through the series, and he especially loved the tips from Costa, and he's looking forward to seeing what comes next. And we also had from at WA Discovery, teething problems, so those technical glitches we spoke about, but nothing that can't be fixed, and it's a great first session, excellent content. So it seems that people are really enjoying it. I think that's also thanks to you, Paul, for your expert overview of what people should be watching out for and focusing on. So as I said, we're going to hear more from you later, but now we're going to go over to Mr. Ortún, who's the director in charge of tourism at the European Commission, and he's going to be talking a bit about a bit behind the series, why they're so passionate about supporting SMEs, and also what they're doing in tourism. Mr. Ortún, Director for Tourism in DG Growth, thank you very much for joining us here today. Let's start off by hearing a bit more about what it is that you are responsible for.
Well, I am responsible now in the new DG Growth age of the services industries, including in particular tourism, the whole supply and value chain of textiles, clothing, fashion and creative industries, The whole digital economy, mainly in the demand side, in the uptake of digital tools by European enterprises, and all the what we call the CATs, the key enabling technologies, meaning by them nanotechnologies, biotech, robotics, advanced manufacturing, 3D printing, and so on.
I hope that these series of live events are going to help tourism businesses in Europe to perform better with new technologies and the fast pace of change which is happening in the industry.
We have to actually review it because I really don't
Well,
know how it renders in the final thing. There will be
part of
some kind of
the whole strategy of the favoring the digitalization of all the European enterprises and industries, digital single market, and the digitalization of all, not only the economy but also the administrations, and the impact that they have also in our lives as citizens is one of the key priorities of the current Commission. And these live events these webinars should facilitate another modern and digital, by the way, tool to facilitate the awareness raising, the exchange of good practices, and the kind of building capacity among the tourism, small and medium enterprises in particular, which are, even though the tourism are a bit more advanced than in other sectors, but in general, the SMEs at European level, 40% of them have not yet even started to take up all the second generation of digital tools, like the social media, the Facebooks, all these second generation, they are not yet started to take up. So there is a big challenge in front of them, and in the tourism field, even though it's less dramatic, this lack of uptake, it's still needed to integrate much more the digital tools in the management of all the European tourist businesses.
How important are tourism businesses, and in particular we're talking about small and medium-sized enterprises, generally considered those businesses with less than 50 people. How important are these businesses for the European economy, and in particular for tourism?
Well, SMEs represent the vast majority of they are what we call the backbone of the European economy. Tourism as such is the third most important economic activity in the European Union if you only consider the core tourist businesses. If you include in them all the different related sectors like construction, retail, gastronomy, and so on, it moves up to the second one. So both by the importance of tourism, by the importance of the SMEs in tourism, and in particular of the micro enterprises, they are a key target of all our policies in this enterprise, and it is one of our main target policies and initiatives.
What do you hope that this 6-part series is going to do for tourism businesses? What do you hope they'll take away from it?
Well, we hope that they will provide another way of linking SMEs with people who are already advanced in this type of in the use of such type of tools. They should be able to communicate better between each other. They should be able to learn about the things which are being doing successfully by some key players in the ground, and that's another way, a digital way, by the way, to improve their management capacity and to improve their potential of marketing better their products, of linking better with the suppliers and with the customers, which are changing dramatically in their own use of digital tools before deciding for any travel experience.
Now, the European Commission is very busy doing a lot of different activities and starting new initiatives to help tourism businesses. Tell us a bit about some of the current activities that people watching this can find out more about and get involved with.
For instance, we have we have put online last autumn an IT business support portal to help any completely newcomer who wants to build a small business, a small tourist business. We have provided him with a digital portal, in the sense that which provides him all the good examples, the good practices, provides him or her with a series of tutorials in each of the areas of any normal and modern company. We have also put online a virtual tourism observatory, which will progressively include all the necessary economic, social, statistical and policy reports and data which are useful to get to know the economic and legal framework of their business. We are also using the ICT tools to promote tourism for all our initiatives, and we have also published a digital guide for specifying the tips to get better access to all the European financial instruments which are able to be used by all the private and public stakeholders in the tourism field.
Now, you've been responsible for tourism policy for a good number of years, and over this time you've surely seen a lot of change take place. Today, what do you think are the biggest challenges that are faced by tourism businesses as we talk and hear a lot about new and disruptive technologies changing the whole landscape?
Well, one of the biggest ones is the operation of the digital tools, and more in particular the wider use by the consumers, the tourists, of this type of digital tools before deciding any type of trip. And this is changing completely the scope and the framework of the tourist business. There are a lot of new actors which are appearing, and the more or less traditional offline tourism industry has to take up this type of tools, has to integrate it fully in their business strategies, and this is one of the main challenges. The other one is the complex evolution of that. In particular, the digital tools are provided in the regulatory framework. The regulatory framework, which has been established mainly for the offline business, has to be updated, has to be, and we are doing so in several pieces of legislation, has to take into account the appearance of these new tools, and that is not an easy task, because the competences in the tourism field at European level are very much split, mainly in the member states at national level, but also at regional and local level, with some competences and regulations and directives at European ones, and this is the second big challenge and change which is taking place in the last 3-4 years, as well as also the appearance of, which is logical by the way, of competitive destinations which are also themselves taking a bigger market share at world level in the world tourism market, and which are using from the scratch in their first strategies in a much more innovative way these digital tools.
So the new European Commission under the presidency of Juncker will see great change and a significant focus on business in the coming years. What do you think businesses can look out for when it comes to tourism policy in the future?
Well, as I have told you, the consolidation of a connected digital single market is the second biggest priority after the promotion and the facilitation of a sustainable growth and the creation of jobs and investments. The consolidation of a digital single market is the second priority, and we are working hard on them. It will be adopted before the summer, and this will be a big change in the framework. And we hope that this consolidation of single market and an increased cooperation and collaboration between the public and the private stakeholders that we are going to promote in our forthcoming initiatives that we are going to publish before the summer also will give a new impetus to the consolidation of the tourism industry at European level.
And finally, there's some really exciting initiatives that you spoke about during this interview. Where can people go to find out more information about these and to get involved?
Well, they are the best at European level and European Commission level, the best places to have a close look of our very complete tourism website portal. In the Europa general website, Europa Grow Now Tourism, and they will find there all the documents, all the initiatives, all the call for tenders, call for proposals, projects, conferences, events that are going to take place. And of course, when we will publish the renewed European tourism strategy around the summertime, they will also find it. But the best way is to either to go to the tourism website, to the Europa Tourism portal, or to contact the Tourism Policy Unit, which is a set of very dynamic and very competent officials, which I have the pleasure to lead in the Commission.
Mr. Ortún, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Pedro Ortún, in charge of tourism at the European Commission and the DG Growth Department. So that's hopefully been a really good set of different case studies and experts, and also hearing from a small business, perhaps just like yours. I hope you found this a very interesting program to watch. We will be back, and in the next program we'll be talking about marketing your business online, and we're really going to get to grips with those key tools that you need to start thinking about as a business. So do join us then. It's going to be broadcast at 4 p.m. CET. Join us live online on the 28th of January in 2 weeks at 4 p.m. CET. Thanks very much for joining us.